Hi, in today's video we're going to do a long-term review of my Garmin Instinct Solar watch. So it is the first version of the watch. It's still available on sale now. It's slightly cheaper obviously than the second version, and the larger version is now out as well. And you can pick it up used for not a lot of money on eBay and other sites. Now this is not going to be a detailed look at the watch itself. There are hundreds of videos already covering all of the functions and features and various things that it can do and how well it can do them. This video is more about what it's like to live with a watch long term, the Garmin ecosystem, and how reliable the watch has been over the 2 and a bit years that I've owned it. What I tend to find with a lot of review videos, they're normally the videos that are out on a day when a new product is released. So obviously they've been given to a number of YouTubers and influencers who get to use them a few weeks prior to that and then give you a review video. That's really helpful for features and all the rest of it, but it's not really any kind of comment on the long-term livability or durability of an item. So I'm going to be revisiting some of my older gear that I've used for a few years and just doing reviews to let you know how well I've got on with them. The main takeaways from this is that I love the Instinct Solar watch. I love the Garmin ecosystem. I think it's fantastic, but I have encountered a pretty fatal flaw with the original Instinct, and I am not alone in experiencing that, so we'll come to that a bit later on. So the reasons I ended up buying the Instinct Solar originally is that I quite wanted a Garmin watch. My previous smartwatches have been kind of general Android ones, and I wanted to up the kind of fitness levels and stats and stuff, and the Garmin ecosystem seemed to do that, and the Instinct Solar seemed to be quite a reasonable way into that system, especially because you can often get it in Black Friday sales and stuff, where you can get a really good price on a smart bit of kit. The solar part of it, I was quite obsessed with going on long treks and hiking without trying to take too much power with me. So I really like the idea of the Instinct part, the solar part, because it was supposed to be pretty decent, and because the watch only has a kind of monochrome screen, the battery life was really good and the actual solar charging was worthwhile. The Solar Edition is a bit more expensive than Standard Edition, so you can get the Standard Instinct 1 really cheaply now. Used, you'll find it in a lot of different places because a lot of people have upgraded to the Instinct 2 or into other watches in the Garmin ecosystem. So price, durability, waterproof, all the rest of it. It's a watch that I wear 24/7. The only thing I ever do every day is just switch which wrist it's on so I don't get any skin irritation over time. So I had high expectations of this watch, so has it lived up to them? Well, the Garmin ecosystem is really good. A definite strength of buying into any of the Garmin watches. The fitness stats, the kind of data that you get is really as much and as granular as you want to go, but you can just use the simple stats that are provided for you to get a really good idea of what you're doing and how well you're doing it. I also like the fact that it completely syncs with Outdoor Active, so I do all my tracking through my Garmin smartwatch and then syncs up to Outdoor Active, where I can then create my routes and plans and then share them on my website and share all the GPX tracking and stuff with people. So it's really useful for that. An added bonus to this is the kind of gamification stuff where you're awarded badges and points for doing certain things. So many activities a month, so many steps, so many runs, so many swims, all that kind of stuff. So I found that really quite motivating. I set my record last year of 138 days unbroken of 10,000 steps a day, and I'm hoping to beat that this year. And an added bonus is I've got a couple of friends and my brother who also have Garmin watches, and they're also really into their running and hiking and stuff. So you can have weekly challenges with each other. Again, just provides extra motivation to get out and go for a hike on really rainy days or days when you're not really feeling it. So in terms of the ecosystem, I do absolutely love it, and it's definitely exceeded my expectations around how good it is. The watch itself has been absolutely brilliant generally. It has a really solid battery life. The solar charging definitely worked initially. I was definitely seeing increased charge times from that. It's handled all of the bashes and knocks and water and different conditions without any issues at all. And it's never gone flat on me, no matter how far I've hiked for. Even on overnight camps and stuff, the battery life has been more than good enough. And obviously, if you sat down on a lunch break on a hot summer's day, you can angle it into the sun or take it off completely, and you can definitely trickle charge it on the go. I found the tracking really accurate, so I've done comparisons with the GPS on my phone, tracked through a different app and stuff, and I found the GPS on the watch absolutely brilliant. I've never really used a navigation function on the watch. It does have one, but with the small screen and stuff, it's only really for emergency use, and I've never really been anywhere where I felt like that would be useful. Even if I get up on the beacons in the worst weather, generally I know the areas so well. I can find my way back and find the path and stuff because I've done all the mountains and hills in those areas and done most of the walks as well. But obviously there's a feature that some people might use. However, I didn't really want any of that. I'm happy to use my phone for those functions. I just wanted a really reliable, robust, lightweight, fairly good value for money watch to do all the tracking for me. So as you can probably tell, there is a but coming. There's a definite downside to this watch, and that is that I no longer actually use it because really it became completely unusable. So last year at the start of the summer, I started having a few issues with it. Sometimes when you were tracking a walk, every time you hit the mile marker, mine's set by default to make a little noise and to vibrate to let you know you've ticked over a mile, and it'll obviously give you some stats on that mile, your walking pace and all the rest of it. When it was hitting that mile marker, it was crashing completely and switching itself off. And then when you switched it back on, you'd lost a load of the tracking data, a load of the steps and information and stuff. So that was really quite frustrating. It did only happen a couple of times, so I kept using the watch and didn't have any problems for a while longer. However, it then started to happen a lot more frequently. So whenever I was trying to track a walk, even a short one of a couple of miles, it would hit that mile marker and often crash. And it then got even worse. When you're actually pressing the button to start the track recording, it would just switch itself off completely and you'd have to start all over again. And it would often wipe some of the data from just general steps you've been doing throughout the day. Now, I didn't fancy buying another smartwatch, so I tried to mitigate it as best I could. And I realised, or it certainly seemed to me at the time, that what made this a lot worse was the battery level. If the battery level of the watch was below 50%, it would crash all the time. But if you charge it to 100% and went out for a walk, it hardly crashed at all. So for a good few months, I was just using it, made sure I'd always charge it 100%, and generally it would work without too many failures. However, after this point, battery life made no difference. Didn't matter how well charged the battery was, it was still crashing consistently. I also found that if I tried to trickle charge it on solar, it didn't seem to have any impact at all. And just generally, the battery life seemed to have deteriorated really, really badly. Now, I didn't fancy changing smartwatches or buying a different one, so I did get in touch with Garmin, their customer services. So they gave me a few tips that I could try. So I did a complete factory reset, a complete reinstall and update of the watch, and sadly, that made no difference either. So I looked online, and I'm not the only person who's had this issue. A lot of people reported exactly the same thing with their Instinct Solar. And from the forum posts on Garmin, it didn't seem like people were getting much joy out of Garmin either, in terms of a replacement or a real fix for it. So obviously these phones do connect to your smartphone, so they do get software updates every now and again. So if it seemed like to me, like if it was a simple software fix, they could have just sent out an update and fixed it. And obviously part of the advice I got from Garmin customer services was to update the firmware and stuff, but it made no difference to my watch. It was just as bad as before. As soon as I tried the tracking activity, it would just switch itself off. I think one of the issues with any kind of smartwatch is how much longevity do they really have? If they're not very easy to service and change that battery because they're all waterproof and rugged and stuff, how long can you realistically keep them for before the battery life becomes too bad anyway? And the upgrade path on watches is pretty much non-existent. So the only thing you can do is upgrade to the latest model. So I appreciate that for a lot of companies, that is a business model that you have. You sell a product, the next year you release an update, and you hope people will buy the new update. But what happens to all the old watches? Obviously I have no idea what to do with mine. I can't really sell it, it doesn't really function. I can only sell it as spares or repairs. But I don't really know if anyone actually repairs these kind of things. It seems to me like you're just encouraged to buy the next model and kind of write off the other one as a loss. And obviously that doesn't just apply to Garmin, that's any smartwatch manufacturer. I don't know very many that you can actually get upgrades to or refreshers, at least easily. So yeah, a bit frustrating really that a watch I really loved and an ecosystem I really loved has just completely died on me within a couple of years of purchasing it. And it's not, in the grand scheme of things, a cheap watch either. Because I hike so much, I didn't want to spend a long time battling with their customer services or sending my watch off, which was out of warranty anyway, so I'm not sure whether a goodwill gesture they would have actually done anything. But I will get back in touch with them at some point and try to see if they'll do anything for that previous watch. However, in the Black Friday sales, I did upgrade to a new watch, and because I love Garmin so much in terms of the ecosystem and my friends and brother on the ecosystem, I did upgrade to a Garmin Fenix 6 Pro Solar watch because it was incredibly cheap in the Black Friday sale. It was actually cheaper than the equivalent Instinct Solar and stuff. So I do have another Garmin watch, and once again I'm absolutely loving it, but I am a little bit wary about whether this one is going to be as reliable. But I just figured that's got to be some kind of software issue on the previous watch, just to cause it to completely switch off when trying to track stuff and things like that. So I'm hoping that whatever bugs were in that original Instinct Solar, they've got those kinks out for the watch I've got now. Yeah, I've not been a good consumer really in terms of, I've had a product, loved it, but ultimately been disappointed by the durability, but I've still gone out and bought another one of their watches. So companies aren't really going to change as long as people like me continue to behave in that way. But all I can do with a kind of video like this is just at least point out the fact that, yeah, sometimes even with manufacturers like Garmin, who are quite respectable in terms of making a lot of smartwatches, sometimes they do seem to get it wrong, because I am far from being the only one who's had an Instinct Solar watch originally that is essentially now a paperweight. So I hope that's been of some use to people. If you own an Instinct Solar, or it's an Instinct Standard, the original one, and you've had the same issue and you've been Googling it and you found this video, yeah, you're not alone. This is a genuine problem. I will follow up with Garmin, and I will add a update in the comments if I get anywhere with them in terms of any kind of replacement or refurbishment or repair. But obviously most watches and most things these days only come with a 1 year limited warranty, so I don't expect to get anywhere without having to pay for some kind of refurbishment, and I'm just not willing to do that really. If you are a hiker and you're ever in South Wales, then do check out the website, thewalkingkev.co.uk, and you'll see all of my Garmin tracks on Outdoor Active have been put to good use. So I've created many walking trails around the area, mountains, lakes, canals, you name it, it's on there. So that's why I'm kind of stuck in the Garmin ecosystem, because I know how to use it, I know the workflow, and generally it is brilliant. Just I had an unfortunate experience with the Instinct Solar, and I just hope on the new watch it's going to be a lot more reliable for a lot longer. If you made it to the end of the video, a huge thanks as always for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.